Mike, thanks for joining us here today on Avid Ratings Builder Showcase. So to get rolling today, I know that Mountain View builds a few different market areas. Definitely has won some of our Avid awards for your exceptional customer experience performance. Can you provide a bit more background on Mountain View Homes for our viewers today?
We're a low-rise builder in the Niagara region. That's southern Ontario, right near Niagara Falls, is in our market area, and we've been at this for 45 years now. Predominantly low-rise, but now getting into mid-rise. We're halfway through construction of our third mid-rise building, and we've got a few more in the docket to go forward with. So we build about 300 houses a year, and mostly in the Niagara region.
Oh, very cool. How's the transition been? Just a side note, off topic. How's the transition been into the mid-rise market for you guys? Is that
It's actually been pretty good. I was very hesitant to get into that market, but the way things are going, the demand for housing in Ontario and the limited supply of land requires it. So scared to get into it. We did our research. We tackled the right areas to get the buildings built properly, and we're hitting our stride now, and we've got a good groove going, and it's working quite well for us. And we're treating the move-in stage similar to our low rise, and we've been at it, like I said, for 45 years, and so it's been good. It's been a good transition, and now we're embracing it, loving it, and going deeper with it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. It seems to be, yeah, a lot of the Ontario builders we talk to, you're going towards density product just for whether affordability or just, again, drive to density just because of what land's available.
Yeah, and actually, one of the things that we really put a lot of effort into, we dealt with this on our townhouses when we went to more townhouses, dealing with sound issues, and
Ah,
on our mid-rise, we did a ton of experimentation and spent a lot of money trying different ways to get the sound to work. And our latest building, we did really well. And as far as being able to hear your neighbors above and below and side to side, I think we've got some of the best scores in the province. And as far as customer satisfaction goes in a dense environment like that, that was one of the key things to address, and we got on that right away.
that's that's awesome. That's actually some of the in the data that I've been seeing with our more density driven product for my 14 years with Avid. It's always like storage space. When you get into the density driven towns, mid, high, storage space, usually parking configurations and considerations, and definitely, sound is a killer. It seems for customer satisfaction. So that's cool.
Mhm.
Well, getting into some of the sort of topic at hand today, we recently released our 2023 State of CX report. It was the first time Avid's done this, long overdue to publish a report on CX, customer experience in the home building industry. What we found when we ran some correlation analysis on the data was that one of the things that tied out highest with customer experience was actually confidence in my builder. And it was a bit of a shocker to us. You kind of think, oh, is it hardwood? Is it, sales experience? What part of the journey? So we wanted to dig into that by interviewing some of our clients and some other, top performing builders across North America. Our data shows that Mountain View Homes not only performs well in this area of confidence in my builder at the move-in stage, but you're also able to sustain that through at the year-end stage as well. And and again, as an Avid Award winner this year, I'd love to learn a bit about your perspective. I don't know if there's any sort of best, magic bullets, but there's any strategies, any best practices that Mountain View might be using to create or maintain customer confidence in that home buyer journey.
All right. Well, yeah. And when you had first mentioned that to me, it kind of caught me by surprise. I can't say that confidence is an area that we're focusing on specifically, but then when I reflected on the data and the information, a lot of what we do has the benefit of enhanced consumer confidence, even though we're not looking at it that way.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think, yeah, and that's what we were trying to dig into as well. Is it driven by better relationships? Is it better communication? What instills confidence? I think part of it too is confidence has been rocked with today's consumers pretty heavily with, and we talked before, and inflation, high interest, generationally high interest rates, things like that as well. So I think that might be why it's percolating up to this key driver in customer experience. I guess just as a general note too, are you finding it more challenging to keep confidence or build confidence with home buyers these days as they're in their journey?
I don't feel like it's gotten more difficult. I know there's a lot of conversation about consumers becoming more challenging. I don't know that we really see it that way. I don't know if it's changed. I don't know. Maybe it's builders changing more than consumers. Um, you don't hear people talk about it that way often, but that might be part of it. That might be part
I
of it.
wonder. There's got to be a reason they're feeling confident with Mountain View.
Well, and when I think about it at a high level, like the overall picture, without getting into the details and the nuts and bolts, when we talk about what makes someone feel confident about the people that they're working with, um, how what's your level of openness and transparency?
Yeah.
Uh, I think maybe even with our purchasers right off the hop, um, the agreement of purchase and sale that we're asking purchasers to sign, uh, is it a sledgehammer in favor of the builder wholly, or is it a balanced document that's easy to understand, uh, that the average person can get their head wrapped around? That's got to be part of it. And um, when I think about at the high level with confidence, there's the agreement we're asking you to sign right off the hop, but maybe even before you walk into that sales office, what's your agent telling you about the builder? If we've got an investor purchaser or even someone who's planning to move into the unit themselves, you know, the agents are telling them who's good to work with and who's not. Um, and at that high level as well, beyond the agent, what are trades talking about? I don't hear people talk about this very often, but we do trade surveys of our site supers. And then we also ask our trades, what are other builders doing that Mountain View could improve on? And a lot of the feedback comes back that our trades like what we're doing and that we're leading the way in a lot of things. And it's not all positive, but the stuff that's not positive, we're working on it. And I feel like between the partner outside agents we're working with and our trade partners, there's just a vibe out in the community. Oh, sorry.
No
There's
problem.
just a vibe out in the community that we're a good partner to work with. And that's going to create confidence. And then adding to that community vibe, Mountain View is very integrated into our community with sponsorships, donations, just being present. If you're to follow our Instagram, the amount of work that we do just to build community and to help out those around us and to be integrated into the communities that we're building, there's a lot of work there. I don't know that it's a lot of, I was going to say it's a lot of effort, but it's just kind of natural. And we've got people on our team that they love that. And it's part of who we are and how we operate on a day-to-day basis. So there's maybe like a high level piece on confidence.
I love that too. The idea that because no matter what size home builder we work with, everything from a small custom right up to the Wall Street public traded builders on the state side as well. And I still think home building is such a local business, though. And I think people want to do business with companies that they match values with sometimes too. So getting involved in the community and showing like we're part of your hometown, I think that's a huge. I love that idea. I guess we've talked a lot in different webinars and different best practice things over the years as well about the people, the product, the process. If you got to have kind of those three things in sync all the time,
Mm.
are there any sort of, you've mentioned a few things like the agreement of purchase and sale, which I love too, making that not a sledgehammer. Are there any key processes that you think Mountain View has maybe implemented, one or two that have helped to boost confidence or enhance the customer experience along that journey?
It's hard to say for sure what's working or what's helped us get that way. But um, one of the things that we've done from a process side that we've really focused on over the last several years is trying to have the most qualified person be the point of contact for what we're dealing with our consumers. So what do I mean by that? We've got salespeople who understand the agreement of purchase and sale, understand the community and the product that we're offering. All builders have that. They're the ones that are putting the original agreement of purchase and sale together. But once you've signed a contract with us, um, we're very different. We're building a few hundred houses a year.
Right.
All of our purchasers have the opportunity to make structural changes and customize their home.
Wow.
And they deal with our draft studio, we call it. So our architecture staff deal directly with our purchasers on anything structural related. They understand how these houses come together inside and out. They're the ones putting together the permit applications. When our purchasers talk to our draft studio people, they know that they're dealing with an expert and they're getting answers that there's no baloney. Like
Yep.
it's the real deal, and they feel very comfortable with it. And on our Avid surveys, we've got some of those custom questions at the end, and probably the biggest positive feedback item that we see in the textual responses, what did you like most about your home, was the ability to customize. And it's not just customizing it, it's customizing it with an expert who's seen multiple customizations, can tell you which ones work and which ones don't, and lead you to make the best choices that after you've been in the house for a year, like you say, you still love those decisions and the neighbors aren't saying, oh my God, you did what?
Oh my gosh, that gave me shivers because my past life working with a builder, we used to our sales team was the one that would just kind of blacklining marketing renderings on changes. We would say we could customize, but boy, it could create some nightmares too if you didn't have the experts actually doing that, drafting that up and saying what does work and what doesn't.
Yeah, and so, having the right people deal with the purchasers all the way through. If there's a question about what's happening in the project from a land development perspective, we have planners on staff. We're not putting up walls where you have to go through the salesperson always to get answers on technical questions. We're fortunate that our staff, they're not hiding behind a salesperson or a frontline person. Our planners will talk to purchasers when we go to start digging the foundation. The site supers do a little video chat with the purchasers to let them know that they're available, and we allow purchasers to visit the house as long as they make an appointment and they can meet with the site super to walk through the house to go over any issues with it. This is hard to do at scale at 300 units a year. But when you talk about building confidence, they've met the salesperson, they've met the draft studio person who's putting in their permit application, they've met the site super who's building their house, they've met the design house person who's helping them with their colors, and we've got that working really well with a wonderful in-house design house. And then they're meeting the finishing super at the pre-delivery inspection, if not earlier as well.
Wow, so they're in expert care the whole way through.
Yeah, we want the most qualified person to be dealing with each item internally as far as processing information and making the system run, but also externally to our purchasers so that they always feel like they're getting the answer from the horse's mouth, like the meat and potatoes, the right answer, the real answer.
Totally. Well, I think because time is such a limited commodity for both sides of the equation, on the builder side and also on the consumer side, you don't want to get shuffled to the person that can't give the answer right away. And immediacy seems, and urgency is so critical with consumers today. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that the personalization or customization piece. Like, I think it's so critical. I mean, we live in such a world now where we can personalize everything we want. So I think our industry has always been very much geared to how can we try and scale e-myth wise like McDonald's and make sure it's like limited choices. And I think we have to blow that up somehow.
Well, that's a big tough one because the entire system has evolved to reduce the customization.
Totally.
Uh, I I don't know. I may be speaking out of turn because I haven't. We have an in-house software system that we use, so I'm not totally familiar with other software systems. But I feel like the software systems push you towards uniformity. The
Yes.
trades push you towards uniformity. There's all these things pushing you towards trying to generate the same thing over and over to reduce errors. Like, how do you build 300 units that are all slightly different without making a million mistakes?
Right.
And when you're talking about enhancing confidence, that intuitively, that's not the way to enhance confidence by putting all these millions of variables into the system that could go wrong. But then we've got other systems to make sure that they don't go wrong, and we can talk about some of that as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That leads right into the next question I had. There's just a plethora of software and tech in the home building space these days. Is there stuff that Mountain View leverages when it comes to platforms, technology, software that helps in this regard and confidence, improving customer experience in general?
We maybe, it's hard to say if software is enhancing confidence, but I think these things just kind of happen organically. So we've developed our own in-house software that we use to manage our entire process. And this software also, there's a purchaser portal that integrates into the system. Our site supers have 90 key schedule points. And as they put in the date that they've ordered something and then the date that that item's completed, the purchasers, when they log into their portal, they see all these 90 key touch points, and they're tracking them with us. We all our change orders are in the system. The purchasers see all that as well. The construction drawings are in the system. The purchasers see the construction drawings. The purchasers are very integrated with the information that we're using internally and with our trades. We're not hiding anything. So I don't know how comfortable builders are at scale providing their construction drawings to their purchasers, but it's been wonderful for us, and maybe that's helped on the confidence front.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're letting them behind the curtain. You're letting the consumers behind the curtain a bit.
Yeah, and then so other things that we've done on the software side, we've been using 3D CAD software for over 20 years, and
Yeah.
so we build the house in the computer before we build it in the field, so that we, at a very high level, what we draw gets built the way we draw it. I don't know if that's always the case, um, uh, but that's a big deal, and that's what gives us the confidence to put our construction drawings into the portal for our purchasers to see. Uh,
Right.
and then we've got we've got a group doing 360 photos through the house at various stages, and those have been a bit of a godsend. So our purchasers get, if they can't make it out to the house, they see what's going on during construction. We've got these 360 views of all the rooms in the house, and it ends up that our staff are using these photos as much or more than our purchasers. Was there an outlet on that wall after the drywall went in? We're logging into our portal and checking it, looking at the same information that the purchasers have at their disposal.
Oh, that's a cool idea. I love that. Well, the people part of the business is always a fun part too. I know COVID, everyone going to remote work, and there was a lot of employee churn during, COVID as well, and that we saw in the industry. Customer confidence, for sure, it has a lot to do with, I think, the relationship a customer has with a company, and that seems to me, at least, the relationship has a lot to do with team members. The culture of the company, the people working for Mountain View. Are
Mm-hmm.
the things that you instill with your team members or like to instill with your team members that help to, again, generate that great customer experience that you guys are known for now?
Yeah, I think that, I think in many ways the culture at the company, how the team members are going to act in a given situation, a lot of that is a reflection of the ownership and the ideals that they're um, presenting day to day and how they look at things. Um, so there's a few things that we do that are just, this is how we do it. I'm sure most builders act this way, but I don't know for sure. So, any builders that are watching this, have you had a time where something is changing on site? There's a material switch, or even the vanity is going to be in one of the bathrooms going to be 4 inches smaller because something didn't work out right. Are you being proactive in communicating that to your purchasers, or are you just letting it ride because they likely won't notice?
All right.
Uh, and so we've just got this philosophy that we're going to over communicate anything that's changed, even if it's minor, because we'd rather deal with things up front instead of later. We've got this internal philosophy that ties go to the purchaser to 65%. So, you end up in these situations all the time where, well, is the builder off or is the purchaser off? Like, where's the misunderstanding? And I think most builders would look at it this way, but ties have to go to the purchaser, but to more than 50%. And is it
Yep.
65 or 70%? Like, we've got to be, um, we've got to be 80% sure before we're going to hold the line, because we understand this process more than the purchasers, and so ties to the purchaser more than 50%. I think that's that's a philosophy that we've always had. And then when we talk about people, um, it's not just um, the staff that you have and how they're approaching things, but your trade partners. We have a lot more trades actively involved on the site than we have our own staff. And are you bringing them into it? So one of the questions on our Avid surveys is there anyone that did a wonderful job, and is there anyone that did an unacceptable job? And when I review those surveys, any names that show up, I'm making sure the person whose name showed up is getting a copy of that survey. And when our trades are being congratulated by our purchasers, I'm sharing that information with them. And when a purchaser has an issue with one of our trades, I'm sharing that information with them. They're often saying, "Oh, I had no idea. Let me talk to the purchaser. I want to set them straight." And it's like, no, 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 no. You've got to do some internal soul searching. This isn't the purchaser's issue. This is your issue. But we're bringing the trades in almost like they're part of our staff.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, there's some stat, I can't quote it for sure, but I think if for a production builder, anybody building more than 25 homes a year, it's like 80 to 90% is subcontracted out. Like, so, I don't think from the builder's perspective, no, we're not all out there hanging drywall and pouring concrete anymore. So we have to have
Yeah.
it's, and I think it's a great point. I think that a lot of times we don't ignore the trade base, but we don't bring them in as part of the culture to try and bring them under the roof and share the victories as well as some of the beauty marks with them as well.
And one of our biggest problems with our trade partners is um, everybody talks about communication. Communication, we're all going to do great at communication. How many, like, as a large scale builder, how often do we have the person who's holding the hammer on site doing the work who is moving forward without the information required to
Oh,
do the proper work? We will send purchase orders and drawings and tons of information to a trade partner. And I don't know why many are very reluctant to hand that to the field crew, to the chief, or to the actual workers doing the work. And, this goes back to technology. It touches a little bit on people. We've put together this system where for every particular trade, we're putting all of the changes that directly affect that trade, as well as the drawings that affect that trade and the color selections that affect that trade, without any of the other information that they don't need, into a single PDF.
oh,
And when the trades show up on site, it's more than half the time that the ownership at that company is not giving the information that we gave them to the actual guy doing the work. And so we're flipping them this PDF that is very specific. So the trim carpenter is
yeah.
getting a PDF with the trim information, the trim specs, the drawings that affect the trim. And, like, is this a swing door, or is it sliding doors or an accordion door? And people are being sent out all the time without the information they need to do the job. And we've worked really hard to bring from the ground up everybody into the information sphere as best we can, sometimes having to bypass the trades management to
Right.
get the right information in the right hands.
Totally. Yeah, I was chatting with a consultant, like he's a energy advisor and lean expert, lean construction expert, and he's like, the last thing we need is creative framers. Like, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a great analogy. We definitely want them to be empowered with the right info if they're going to be building this stuff.
And usually the head of the framing crew will have the drawings for the house and the information they need, but there's so many other people who may not. Like the drywaller, is he just there to place drywall on top of the studs that are there, or should he have a set of plans so that if there's a question on, is this railing or is this a half wall, he can
Right.
actually look at the drawing and know? I would argue that probably more than 50%, if not more than 70% of people with a screw gun applying drywall to studs do not have a set of plans when
Oh,
they're doing
I
it.
would totally believe that. Yeah, that's a great point. Happened in our ADU we built, so it was supposed to be helpful.
So we talk about confidence, and if a purchaser makes changes and those changes aren't being executed in the field, you can expect the confidence levels to drop. And if they're making changes and they are being executed in the field, then maybe the confidence goes up. I don't know.
I think so. That's totally true. Well, the other part of confidence that we were looking at in the reporting that we were doing in the was that, it ties back to quality of the product, of course, as well. Like I think today, product quality, no matter if it's home building or car or auto, anything we're buying, it's table stakes to play. If we don't, if we miss on product quality, we're going to be in damage control mode. So when it comes to a new home, what is stands out to you as sort of the quality piece of Mountain View that would make a customer say, that's, I want a Mountain View home for this home and my next home and my kids' homes?
This is a very challenging one for us. And so I'm a civil engineer by background, and that, I guess, is reflected in how we operate as a company to some degree. A lot of the work that we put into our houses is underneath the paint and drywall and things that people can't see, and makes it hard to uh, show how we're better than our competitors, but things just work. So we're putting a lot of effort into the framing, the drywall, the insulation, and it's a huge challenge for us because we're framing our houses different from everybody else around us.
Oh, okay.
We are drywalling our houses completely different from everybody else around us. These The way that we do these things, you can't tell that there's a difference after the house is done. Um, all we can hope is that we have less service calls, and when homeowners are in their house 6 months later, and they're 6 months later, and their friends bought a house from a competitor, and they are having less issues than ours. That's increasing their confidence. But when I and hiring a new trade, trying to get a new drywaller to even understand what planet we're on is a huge challenge. It requires a tremendous amount of effort. And so what am I talking about? Like it's as simple as when we have arches and structural walls on the first floor, we're using metal backing within our wood walls, arches, so that the arches don't all crack when there's no wood casing and trim on them, right? We do all of our bulkheads with metal instead of wood, so that we've got continuity of the air barrier and the drywall behind, and they're perfectly straight and level. It's more expensive, it takes more time, but we just don't want those headaches. And everything is square, everything is tight. The two stud corners with the metal backing, the amount of effort we put into truss uplift, we and we still don't have a lot of these things worked out. And we're not perfect every time, but there's a ton of effort that we're putting into it, and the amount of industry training we have to do to even get there. And I could go on. Fiber mesh in our basement floor concrete so that the cracks aren't as big. Steel rebar in the foundation walls with higher MPa concrete than required by code, and
Wow.
all that. I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to bore you on this one. But I will say, and I don't. This may be part of the confidence or not. We're putting the effort into a lot of things that you can't see. I don't know that that's common or intuitive. Maybe that shows up through what our trade partners are saying to people in the community. But that's where a lot of our effort is in the product. No maintenance exteriors, no wood on the outside, no matter what. The garage doors have to be metal. Any trims have to be PVC. Just when you drive through a subdivision that's 2 years old and all the wood, the paint is peeling off the wood, you're not going to feel confident about that project.
Oh, totally. That is the tough part too, because years ago too, I was selling new homes and it was so hard. I was selling for a really solid builder, but it was hard to convey that because people didn't see it. They still want the quartz and the granite, right? And they go down the street to
Mhm.
the builder down the street that's just a way different price, when it comes to dollars per square foot. So,
And there's a
but
lot you can cut that you can't see. There's a lot you can cut that you can't see.
that's interesting. Well, my other question was, I think we've covered a little bit though too, but it alludes to the fact that we're both, this is a tough sport. Home building, I think, is one of the most complicated industries out there. There was a Six Sigma expert years ago that did a study on a production builder down in, I think, Arizona, that found 60,000 potential points of failure that were dodging those bullets for for customers in the industry.
And we've failed on every one of those at one point or another.
That's how you learn, right? You got to just fail quick and recover. Fail fast. But I think you've alluded to it already. But if there's going to be friction in a customer journey, I think it's just such a long cycle time. Any tips on how you deal with that, other than just trying to like nip it in the bud right away when something goes sideways with a customer?
Unfortunately, not all of our houses are perfect, and not all of them go as smoothly as we would like. I think one thing that we do that is frustrating, but perhaps builds confidence, we just never give up. Like
Nice.
there, sometimes you run into those challenges where something went wrong. You go in to fix it, you created another problem. You go in to fix it, you created another problem. Like we've had these things go 3 levels deep sometimes, and that's terrible. And I hate to admit it, and now it's on video, but if you're doing 300 houses a year, it's the reality of what you're going to face. But we just keep coming back, as painful as it is, and as frustrating as it is for us and our purchasers. We don't give up. We're just going to keep working as best we can until we get it right. Um, and as an owner, one of the things I don't want my staff or the team that I work with protecting me from the purchasers.
Yes.
So you know, the people that I work with, they're aware that if a customer is upset, the goal is not to keep them out of my office. Well, the goal is to keep them from contacting me because we're satisfying them, not because we're protecting me
Yeah.
from them. And so I never ask anybody that I work with on the team to be presenting something to a purchaser that I wouldn't be comfortable with myself. And I think that gives them a lot of confidence because I'm not asking the people on the team to do things that don't feel justified and natural and supportive when they're dealing with these tough situations. And then, you know, one piece of advice that I can give that has had a tremendous impact on us and our relationship with the purchasers. Sometimes the purchasers who we failed the most, um, usually when that's happened, it's because there's something wrong with what we're doing or how we're operating. And they love to know that we've actually learned from this experience, which was very challenging for them. We've modified who we are and how we operate or how the houses are being built because of a situation that was not comfortable for them. I don't know where this makes sense psychologically,
Yeah.
but they feel like something's getting better, even though it wasn't better for them, and it's made us better, and they feel like they were part of something improving. This has happened multiple times in my experience.
That's super interesting. I guess that's, yeah, maybe there was a hint of altruism in all of us, I guess, right? So at least if you were the guinea pig on one, but you're saving others the headaches.
I don't. This has happened more than once. There's something to this. Um, we've let people down, but they've made us better. There's at least it's not all bad.
Ah, that's awesome. Well, I think, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
again, back before my Avid days when I was building, it was it could have been the worst customer experience. We delayed their closing. We day before closing spilt fuchsia paint down their carpeted stair.
Yeah,
Anything that could go wrong
that's
with
the
it.
3 levels deep I'm talking about.
Totally, anything that we touched broke with them, and it's
Yes,
just they became our best referring advocate though. Eventually, I mean, we just hugged them the whole time. Like all you could do was like cry together and have a moment, and then all of a
we
sudden
don't give up.
yes, yeah, I love that idea. Like just be that the tenacity, maybe. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting close to the end here, but I know there are no magic bullets, secret sauce recipes for for home building or consumer confidence. But if you were talking to a new person starting out that wants to be a builder, brand spanking, any one thing you'd say, if you're going to start, think of this.
Maybe like I'm getting on in my career. I've been at this probably 30 years now, and I think when I reflect on why we've been able to be somewhat successful, I, 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 I just think about what my goal is and what it's been and why I get up in the morning. And every day, for me, it's about just making one thing a little bit better than it was yesterday. And if you're doing this for 30 years, and every day something's being tweaked to be better, recognizing what's broken, what needs to be fixed. Purchasers like to be part of it. Every day, are you making something better? But I have to qualify that because it's easy to see a problem and hit it with a sledgehammer to fix it. Um, and we talk about this constantly in our organization. Did we improve something today, and will it still be better 12 months from now?
Oh yeah.
And we have this ongoing joke because my site supers, when we have something that's and a problem that we're addressing, they want me to circle it on the construction drawings so that they don't miss it, and that problem now will be solved. And we're trying to create systems that are intuitive where problems get solved naturally, because what'll happen is if I started doing that on day one of my 30-day career, we would have more circles on the drawing than dimensions and walls.
Right.
And
Totally.
then it's like what Syndrome said to Mr. Incredible: once everybody's super, nobody is. And once everything's important, nothing's important. So, can we make something better every day, um, tweak one little thing, but have it continue to be in place a year from now? And if you can do that over 10, 20, 30 years, you've got an amazing product with an engaged workforce and avid consumers, and the whole thing just works.
I love it. I think it's the law of incremental gains or whatever they call it too, right? Where you just got to constantly be tweaking. The British cycling team, there's an old story about the British cycling team that could never win the Tour de France, never won the Olympics, but they brought in a new coach and all he did was 1% changes on everything, like little, incremental gains. And over the course of time, they
And
win
do
one.
you remember the change that you made though at the beginning? And is that still in place? And are all these incremental changes still maintained somehow? And how are 1,000 things important? How do you manage that? That's the trick. Everybody
Oh,
can make a change. Can you have all these changes part of the system intuitively and naturally that they're continuing?
that's what makes home building such an easy sport.
That's right.
Oh man. Well, there was a webinar. I just wanted to touch on a couple last things. There was a webinar that Zonda put on a couple weeks back, and I thought it was really interesting because it said that, it's been quite the roller coaster for the building market since COVID, and it always is something. There's always headwinds of some sort. But they were saying we were well positioned in the building market today because of the new home share versus the resale market. And they kind of cited three reasons why. They said, one, more builders are putting up what they call QMI, a quick move-in product. So, it competes a bit better with the resale market to get, closings quicker. Secondly, they said on that same note, cycle times have been improving. Said some of the builders are down to like 4 to 7 months for their cycle time compared to 12 plus months a few years back. And then they also said that, builders are in a pretty unique position with things like mortgage rate buy downs and that the resale market or the used home market can't compete with. Have you guys seen, or are you leveraging or experiencing any of those three factors at all?
I'm familiar with the report and the information in it. I think in Ontario, we've got Toronto as the elephant in the room, and everything kind of spreads out from there. And what we're seeing in Niagara isn't quite lining up with that specifically.
Okay.
Like as far as the quicker closings, for us, many of our purchasers are investors. They actually want longer closings so they
Oh,
can save up and be better prepared. They'll be better. They perceive that they'll be better prepared 12 or 18 months from now instead of today to close on that purchase.
I
Or
got
they
you.
want to lock in today's number because we're in a market where there's just not enough land to supply all the houses that there's demand for. So they're just locking in that piece of property that they will be prepared to close on 18 months from now. So we're seeing some things acting a little bit opposite of that. And the cycle times have definitely slowed down. But I feel like where we are just outside of Toronto, that's a blip more than what can be expected. And we're not really planning everything around that because there is a trade shortage in Ontario. It's a severe trade shortage. There are several trades that there just aren't enough to um, to build the number of houses that are required in this market. And we had a bit of a slowdown where things slowed down at the end of 2022 for sales and beginning of 2023. But if it, and when you talk about the buy downs as well, we're seeing some of that, but it's not the key factor. Like for us right now, the key factor is this is what someone can, if there's a number of what someone can afford for either a condo or a townhouse or a single, and are you able to hit that number or not? And if you hit that number, you will sell some houses, and if you don't, you will not. And so now I'd say in our particular market, the focus is more on Do you have the right land size? Because land is such a key component of the cost of a home today. Do you have the right land size and the right unit size to fit the price point that works for your market? And if interest rates keep going up, then I obviously that whole buy down system will be more prevalent in our market. I'm sure of it. But right now, if you can hit that price point, there are some that want the quicker closing, but just as many, if not more, in our market that would appreciate more time.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. It's kind of
Now, I have American builder friends from across the states, and their situations are opposite mine.
totally.
And
Yeah.
there are markets where there's plenty of land available, and the prices are lower. Like we're looking at singles at $1 million,
Yes.
and there are markets in the states where you're buying singles at 400 or $300,000, and so the markets are very different in different parts of North America.
It's such a local business. Yeah, the longer I'm in it, the more I see it. Just everywhere you go, it's just got to be. It's a local business with local nuances. I think the
Mhm.
consumer today too. Like I think they've had to reset. We're chatting about it yesterday in a couple of meetings. Like they've reset their, okay, I still need a home. I'm pressured. I'm growing family or downsizing, whatever reason. But I have to kind of reset my brain around. Okay, I was going to get $1 million home. Now my carrying costs mean I have to be at 900. And now
Yeah.
what product can I get at that price?
Yeah, and for we're seeing, we build predominantly low rise, but we're building some mid rise as well. And that low rise market, these are people that want low rise for a reason. Usually, that reason is family, and they'll like people who would never consider a townhouse in the past. I can still put a swing set in the backyard. Okay, not a problem,
I can
right?
do this. Yeah, yeah,
It's getting that house with a little patch of grass,
yep.
and or the garden, because that's where your enjoyment comes out of life. So they'll give up on some things to get that low rise unit with the piece of lawn that they can use for gardening or for kids, or this or that. Can we get the price point to allow them to fulfill that dream?
No, totally. We still want our picket fence dream of some sort, right? It seems.
You got it.
Awesome. Well, just before we wrap up, any last thoughts you can share with our home building viewers and industry out there today?
I think we've covered it, Tim. Like that, we've covered a lot of ground. Avid's been a good partner through this. The information we draw from the surveys actually does affect how we build our houses, and how we do what we do. Just as I said, sometimes it's the purchasers that have had the most difficult situation that have helped us improve the most. And yeah, and every day we're trying to make something a little better, but maintain that over time is the key part of that.
Totally. Yeah, that is the trick.
Mhm.
Well, that's been wonderful. Thanks so much, Mike, for joining me here today on our Avid Ratings Builder Showcase. It is great working with you and Mark and all your team at Mountain View Homes, and it's been awesome to have this opportunity today to just to sit and banter a little bit. And
Mhm.
wishing you and the Mountain View team continued success.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. Stopping.